Friends, I am so excited for who you get to meet today. I'm sitting here with my new friend, Ashley Fenker. Ashley, welcome to Girls Night.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For women who haven't gotten to meet you yet, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and a fun fact about yourself?
Yes. So I'm Ashley and I am a professional writer. And now I can say I'm a published author. My first book just came out on March 11th. And I'm a mom. I have a 2.5-year-old son who keeps me on my toes. So I've been a writer my entire life, and I've worked the last 15 years in various nonprofit and marketing settings, doing copywriting and nonprofit fundraising and grant writing and kind of anything under the sun with that. And in my mid 20s, I actually moved to Dallas, Texas, and spent a couple years at Dallas Theological Seminary. And I studied in their media arts and worship department. And they have a really unique program with studying faith and spirituality and creative writing. So it's always been a real passion of mine to weave creative writing and deep thinking together. And so, I've been doing kind of freelance writing life the last 7 years. And then just spent the last year and a half really dedicated to getting this book out into the world. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
And fun fact.
Yeah, fun fact.
This is the golden question, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of a silly one, but when I was little, my mom used to help me throw the most epic birthday parties ever. So I was thinking, you have little girls, so you can maybe plan ahead here.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were in late elementary school, we covered our hair in butterfly clips and went to a local recording studio, and we recorded Shania Twain a music video. So we still have the VHS and we're all just rocking out. And it just kept getting better. So by 8th grade, we hosted an American Idol themed party, and everybody had to prepare their act ahead of time. And then my music teacher from school actually came to my house to be a judge for my birthday party. And she was taking notes on who might be a fit for the school play. And so they were pretty epic.
That is absolutely so cool. That is so cool. And I did just take notes. In my head, I'm okay, a couple years from now, in the back, it's written down, underlined, and circled with a butterfly clip.
Yeah. It's so memorable, right? They just stand out to you and never gonna forget it.
That's so awesome. That's a great fun fact. Okay, so you mentioned this, but you have a brand new book, which congratulations.
Thank you.
And also I'm sending you a giant hug. Putting a book out into the world is absolutely no joke. But I want to hear about it. So it's called Good Enough Mother.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Good Enough Mother is this quirky, weird collection of stories and essays about my journey into motherhood. And I say quirky and weird because it just doesn't fit neatly into these categories, which early readers are loving, but it's just unexpected when you get into it. So I have essays and poems and stories that are written in first, second, and third person. There's grocery lists throughout that kind of mark time evolving in your life and show different seasons of your life, and how a simple grocery list can just be so poetic and speak to what's happening in your life stage. So I started writing these different essays in 2020 when most of the world, I was isolated and at home and trying to really wrestle with what was happening in our world and what was happening in my own life too. I had just gotten married, like literally a few months before, and we had moved in 2 weeks before the big lockdown. And then my husband travels a lot for work, so he still had to travel. So I was at home by myself in this big house that was just in this brand new life that there's so many expectations for, getting married and starting a family and all those things. And I was high risk for some chronic illness, things I had dealt with my whole life. So I was just fearful, like so many of us, and home alone and like literally wandering through my house, wondering, are we going to fill this house with a family, or like what is our life going to look like? We didn't even start decorating anything because we were like, well, no one's coming over. Let's not really make it ours. So it really felt like I was wandering around in someone else's home. So there's an essay in there in the book called A Hallway to the Nursery. And I'm just kind of, realizing that the people that lived in our house before had all these stories. There's stories that lived in the house that they took with them, and there were stains on the carpet and all these quirky things. And I just was kind of wondering, like, what were these rooms going to do? Like, what were their purpose going to be, and how would we fill them up? And so I started writing just for my own processing and just something I really needed to do. And yeah, so it's 5 years later, and a lot of the work that I started then is in no way the same form that it took when I started. I became a mom in 2022. So I guess that's spoiler alert for the book, but it was a long road, and I struggled with postpartum anxiety and depression, and I was living this life that I had dreamed of, but I just didn't recognize myself, and I just didn't know what to do or how to act, or, what the right, quote unquote, right things were to do. And I found a great therapist and leaned on her and family support to really find my way out of that initial fog. And I just decided, like, it was really important for me to take on a project like editing and writing and publishing this book that would just give me this sense of completion. And I could just start to, I physically laid these stories out on the floor, and I just started to see this bigger story unfold of, what does it even mean to be a good mom? And in no way is my book prescriptive. I do not have the answers. My book is very much asking questions and inviting readers to sit in their own ordinary, messy stories and to just feel inspired to just wrestle with their own questions that they might have about all of this. So,
Mm. I love that. I find that there was a long time where I like really sought out books that had answers, but I've found that in the last, I don't know, like many years, I've wanted to read them less and less. And so now the books that I want to read and the books that I write are like, let's help you find what works for you. Like
mhm.
way less of this, like life, all of it is one size fits all than I think I thought it was in
Yeah.
my early 20s or when I was in college. And yet there are so many people and things telling us what they're supposed to look like, what it's all supposed to look like. And so I love that your book offers just this quiet place to be with your own thoughts and kind of figure out where you are in all of this.
Yeah. I loved listening to your episode with Emily Oster, who I love and follow closely, but you said something in there about a therapist recommending to find your gurus, right? And it's like, it's so true. It's like the voices are so loud. There's so many opinions to listen to, and it's completely overwhelming. I started writing soon after becoming a mom, a subset called Stuff Moms Google, and people are just really resonating, right? Because we're all just up Googling all these things. And again, I don't have the answers, but I'm just like you, reaching for like doing the quote unquote right things.
Yes. That is so, like, truly the amount of time that I spent on Google, especially in the first handful of months that my girls were here, was like, I mean, it's totally unmatched. And like the how like fervently and really desperately I was seeking answers and how high stakes the questions felt. And
Yes.
it's a lot. So that's fantastic. Tell us more about your journey towards becoming a mom. I know you mentioned an autoimmune disorder, and I know that that had those stories sort of weave together, don't they?
Yes, yes, for sure. So I started getting like mysteriously sick when I was a teenager. So I was 14 years old, I think a sophomore in high school. And it happened very suddenly. I woke up overnight and I had like a really high fever. And then my face was really swollen. It sort of looked like I had the mumps. And my family has a lake house in North Carolina. So I was down there at the time. I grew up going there every summer. And we went to like the local hospital there, and nobody could figure out what was going wrong. And this happened every year in high school for the next 3 years. And I would be in the hospital for up to 2 weeks, and I couldn't really eat because I couldn't open my mouth. And I was having just these other kind of random symptoms that nobody was really thinking to put together. I was just really, really tired and fatigued. And I was a competitive cheerleader growing up. And I started really young in like first grade. So by the time I was in high school, I wasn't keeping up physically. And it just it didn't make sense. I had other strange things like losing circulation in my hands and my feet, and getting this like cloudy dryness in my eyes. And then I don't produce enough saliva to keep my teeth healthy. So just like some very strange, random things happening that nobody felt to put together. So by that third year in the hospital, I was a senior, I think, in high school at the time. And there was an intern at the hospital who just thought maybe we should test you for some autoimmune conditions. And it was not simple. If anyone's been through autoimmune, the journey, it's not one test for one thing. It's a lot of testing, lots of different things to see what you could possibly have. It's hard to get a firm answer. So it still took a while, but I was diagnosed with Sjogren's at the time, and that's an autoimmune condition that's more common for women in later in their 60s. So I was still 16 years old at the time. So just no one really thought of that it could even be that. So I started seeing a pediatric specialist and got on some different medicines to try to stabilize me. And I've had a lot of bouts of needing to be on steroids for extended periods of time. And so it continued throughout my life. I transitioned at 18 years old from a pediatric specialist to just a local rheumatologist to keep managing my conditions. And that's when I had to physically carry my doctor's records, like from one doctor to the other. And that's when I saw in my records that the doctor had written that, discussed future risk of pregnancy with the patient. And he had never done that with me. And, I don't know. I mean, I was young, so maybe it was just kind of a box that he checked and didn't want to discuss that with me, but it was really news to me. So it's obviously something I carried with me, and I just was really uncertain. Would I be able to get pregnant, or would my body be able to handle pregnancy? Just like so many unknowns about all of it. And as I kept dating or meeting anyone in my 20s, it was like, okay, when do I share this piece of information with them? What part of the story do I tell? And how do I stay hopeful and like hold on to these dreams of being a mom? But also, I don't think I always let myself dream too big. I would hold myself back and think like, oh, maybe that's not for me. And I wouldn't really vocalize to friends that, oh, I actually deeply desired to be a mom because I just wasn't sure. So fast forward a lot of years, I had just ups and downs of sometimes feeling great and other times kind of sliding back and needing to readjust. And a lot of symptoms are triggered by stress and dehydration that can really make things worse. By my late 20s, I actually had to have all porcelain crowns put on my teeth because my teeth had decayed so much from the lack of saliva. So it was a huge undertaking, and medical insurance doesn't cover any of it. It's considered cosmetic, even though it's something I needed, right? I couldn't really eat very well. It was really hard. So my community and friends and family rallied around me to make that happen. It was $65,000 to get everything done. So that was, and it took many years of fundraising and the pain of going through it and all of that. So
Oh my gosh.
I met my husband right before I turned 30, and he hadn't been part of, any of this journey. So kind of deciding again, like, what do you tell him and how do you share all of this? And we wanted to start a family, and the stress of we met very quickly. We planned a wedding in about 3 months time. And so my symptoms just got a lot worse. So I sought out even more intense care. So I'm a patient at Johns Hopkins now. And by the time I was 30, they diagnosed me with lupus as well. So I currently have Sjogren's and lupus. There's a lot of overlap between both, and the symptoms are pretty similar. But my son was born in 2022, and actually currently pregnant. So I'm 24 weeks pregnant. Yeah. So I am reliving just the ups and downs of managing a high risk pregnancy, and everything's going really, really well. And my son is here and healthy and great. It just takes a lot of extra monitoring. So.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I have so many questions. Thank you for sharing this with us. First of all, I know that one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is the fact that we each have all these different things on our plate in life. We have things that we take on, decisions we make, things that happen to us, our circumstances. But like on top of or underneath all of that is sort of the foundation of the body we were born into and sort of the cards that came along with that body. And it's the set of cards is different for all of us. And that's just something that like it's really hard to step into each other's shoes. And so I think when you see people on the street, you have no idea what's going on in their life in any part of their life, but you definitely have no idea what's going on in their body. And that just plays a huge part in the like load that we have to carry in life. And so I know that so many women that are listening are going to resonate with this for a bunch of different reasons, that they're like, this whole thing that I am dealing with that nobody talks about, or like that people don't understand.
Yes. And autoimmune especially just tends to be invisible. And there's so many days that you would just see me or see someone like me that I was managing jobs and doing well and going about my life in a fairly normal way. And you just wouldn't know if I was having a day where I woke up feeling like so achy I could barely get out of bed, or just, any of those flare-ups that you're having. It's easy to mask them. And even with my teeth, I'm slower to tell people like, hey, by the way, like none of my teeth are real, because there's so many layers to it. So I think it's so important to share our stories and know that, we're not alone in it.
Yeah. How did you decide as you were dating, as you make friends and meet new people, and really like as you started dating your husband, did you sort of like learn anything that you can pass along to us in terms of the pace at which you'd share things, or like, any lessons from the road of like, this felt a little fast, or this didn't go well, or like, really, this did. So go ahead.
Yeah. I think I'm definitely an open, honest person. Like I tend to only be friends with people who are going to be real and vulnerable. I love talking to you and the nature of this community, even just to share our real stories. That being said, it's not something I come right out of the gate sharing. I kind of will wait until I can fully trust someone. So with my husband, we actually met online. So it's certainly not something I was chatting with him about before we met in person. I don't remember exactly, but I doubt it's something on our first date that I shared about. Like I'm just slower to let people into it. But there's so much power when you do share it. And like we said, like it can be invisible. So if people can't see it, they might think, oh gosh, why is she so quiet at her party? Or why is she turning down a chance to hang out? Um, or, just making different decisions that they might not understand. So I guess my piece of advice is to just really choose who you keep close in your life. And the friends who I have now, like I really choose to keep a smaller circle of close friends who just know me really deeply and have walked with me through a lot of this and can fully understand when I'm having a really bad day, and they can be there to lift me up, and not with like cliches or platitudes. Like they know like what you're going through is real and we're here for you and anything we can do. So yeah, even in marriage now, it's like still I have to speak up, right? Like if I keep things in my head that I'm really struggling, my body's really hurting, or I'm not doing well physically, my husband can't read my mind. So I have to really learn how to advocate for myself and for the support that I need.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we think we're doing other people a favor by keeping our pain quiet. And I get that. Like, I feel like I've spent a lot of time in my life wanting to make myself less, because if I show up with my full self and I'm too much or I'm still not enough, like, oh gosh, then that rejection feels like it hurts so much more. And so I think we're used to keeping ourselves, keeping our pain inside. But the thing that I've found, especially in marriage, is like when we don't know, I mean, friendship too, when we don't say what's going on with us, then the other person is left to like fill in the gaps, to tell the story. And so if your husband doesn't know, hey, she's in a lot of pain today, like, I'm in a lot of pain today, he could be walking around going like, what did I do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kinds of like, I don't know. I think that we do feel like we're doing other people a service by not telling them what's going on, when
Mm-hmm.
really that leaves so much space to be misunderstood. And it's so much easier to show up for someone if you just know what's happening with them.
Yes. Yeah, it's a lot of like mind games too that you have to overcome. And I've worked really hard over the last couple of years too to move out of even that victim mentality. It's like it can really wear you down of like, oh, why is this happening to me? Like the woe is me. And there's some level of acknowledging, yes, this is hard and this is messy and this is real, but trying to reframe it of like, I'm really strong for going through this and continuing to push through it and being more confident in that.
Yeah. I love that. I love that reframe. So I want to hear more about this season, about right after you got married, because, and I mean, really, there's sort of a short pattern. We're not calling this a long pattern. We're not saying anything about the future here. But a short pattern of these two things that you were really, really hoping for and looking forward to, one being marriage, and then two being motherhood, and like arriving in them and having them feel a little different than you thought they would.
Mm.
Do
Yeah.
you, like, what are some of the things that you What were some of the things that were going on in your head during those times?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, it kind of comes back to those sort of mind games and just, I don't even say mind, like the reframing and the processing and finding these tools. So I've always been a big journaler, but I turned to journaling even more during those times. And I wanted to work through having a long term vision. Like, I think with chronic illness and being diagnosed so young, I see the world a little bit differently. I think I make decisions differently. And it can be easy to not let myself plan too far for the future, to kind of just stay in the immediate and like not be overly optimistic. Like, it's a little bit harder for me to assume the best. I have some friends who didn't struggle with what I did, and it just was like, yep, I'm going to get married and have kids and start a family. Like, it seemed very simple. And of course, everyone has their own unique story, and it is not a given for anyone. But I just started to try to wrestle with these questions and process it in journals that no one will ever see the light of day of, like, okay, Ashley, you are here and you are well. Like, today you are well and you're getting support. And I started just asking more questions, even of doctors, and advocating for myself even more, and just trying to get to the bottom of it. Like, was it a doctor really saying, like, no, you can't have kids? And it's like, no, that wasn't the truth. It's that it's just going to be harder and a little more complicated and more monitoring to get there and to get to that point. It's not that it's not possible. It's a lot of management, even as I'm reliving it now with doctor's appointments and just having a closer eye on it. So I think so. Yeah, processing is huge. And then my faith has always been really important to me, and just leaning into that, like, just, it's beyond my individual ability to just stay hopeful every second of the day. And I need to lean on something bigger than myself to believe that I am here and worthy of this, like, fulfilling future.
Yeah. Mm. Did any part of you, something that I've been thinking about a lot is how a lot of times we have feelings and then we have feelings about our feelings. And the feelings about our feelings tend to be a lot harder to deal with, I think, than the feeling itself. So, an
Mhm.
example of this would be like, if there's something you're waiting on, like say motherhood, for example, and one of your best friends gets pregnant and you
Mhm.
have yet another negative pregnancy test in your hands, it's easy to feel angry or resentful or jealous, or, and those aren't feelings that we really want to feel. And so then we have feelings about that feelings, which is
Mhm.
can sound like, I'm the worst. I'm such a bad friend for feeling this way. Or like, man, I'm so messed up for like being jealous right now. Or we judge ourselves for the feeling that we're having. And so what I wanted to know is when we have something that we've been looking forward to forever and we get into it and it feels different than we thought it would, I think sometimes we're quick to judge ourselves for that. And so
Mhm.
did that happen to you at all? Like, as you were a newlywed and you're like, okay, well, this isn't how I pictured it. Or as you're a mom, you bring your sweet baby home and your feelings aren't what you thought they would be because you're
Mhm.
experiencing postpartum depression and anxiety.
Mhm.
Did you have any
Yeah.
of that like judgment for yourself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I still do. For me, therapy's been huge. So I have a really great therapist I've met with over the last several years, and I've had some in the past too. But it's hard to find someone who you really click with. I'm also just a huge advocate for sharing or leaning into those feelings on feelings, like you're saying. I cannot relate to someone who just wants to push past that feeling. Like, I want you to admit to yourself or to someone else, like, hey, it's really hard that you're getting married before me when I really wanted that for myself. And, writing has been that tool for me to express those feelings. And again, whether you keep that in a journal for your own private processing, or you are a writer who wants to share things more publicly and like connect with people in that way, I just don't want anyone to skip past sitting in those feelings. I think, especially, I've found like in the Christian community, the tendency is just to kind of wrap it up, tidy it up, and move on, and even layer on shame for feeling the way that you're feeling. And that's not real. That's not real life. And we have to acknowledge them. And there is space for it. And if you are in a time where you can only sit there and you can't move past it, that's great. That's valid. Like, that is where you are. And I think if you can get real with yourself and then have that trusted community of who you can share those feelings with, that is even more helpful. And any friend who is going to run away when you share, hey, like, I'm so happy that you're pregnant and starting a family, but I can't help but feel that that's something I've really, really wanted. And I don't have a vision for when that's going to happen for me. Like, a true friend is going to stay and love you through that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think, I'm so glad to hear you talking about this, because I think we do have this idea of what these big milestone moments are supposed to look like and feel like. At least I do. I'm like,
Mhm.
well, on my birthday, I should feel the happiest I do all year. And it's like, and every birthday, that pressure is just like crushing. Same with New Year's. Like, the New Year's Eve, the way you end one year is the way you start the next. And you're like, so if I don't have a good day, that means I'm like dooming my year. Like, those of us who are like, we're not superstitious until it comes to that moment. And then we're like, oh my gosh, I have to be doing something fun on New Year's. I think the same is true for big transitions, though, that we think we're going to feel a certain way when we get married, or we're going to feel a certain way when that baby comes home. And it's complicated. It's
Yeah.
complicated because when you got married, you got home, and then a pandemic hit. And
Mhm.
like, there was just no way for you to mentally prepare for that. And like, same with postpartum, our bodies are doing all kinds of crazy things. Like, our hormones are going nuts, and our body's just been through so much. There's not a way to predict how your body and your mind are going to react to such a giant change. And so you may not be a diaper commercial.
Yeah.
That may not be how it looks. And that's okay. And I think that when we are honest with each other, and we're all honest, then we can hear a bunch of different stories, and you can find out that like the experiences of how it feels to be a newlywed or a new mom are as varied as, it's a spectrum, it's a rainbow, it's all
Yes.
kinds of things. And so wherever you fall on that, you're okay. You're not doing anything wrong, and you're not alone.
Yes. And there's so much medically behind it too that I want people to understand. Like, when my son was born, he came 5 weeks early because I ended up with preeclampsia. And he was doing great, and my checkups were all great. But my levels were just off the charts. So we had to do a pretty rushed emergency C-section. And that just sent my body into, trauma. Like, I mean, really trauma. Like, the recovery was nothing like I heard in any books that I read, any classes that I took. No one prepared me for the pain of that. But not only that, just the not feeling the attachment to my son. I mean, he spent the first 5 days in the NICU. I had to be rolled down in a bed to even get close to him to see him because I couldn't even walk. So to not have those immediate bonding experiences that you long for and you expect, because that's sort of what we're told is going to happen. It took a long time, like many months for me to even, like, I loved my son, but I just wasn't feeling what I thought I would feel. I thought, again, I had waited for so long and then it was possible for me and he was here. And I just was like, this is not it. And my body is just taking a really long time to recover and feel well enough to even enjoy any of those early moments.
Yeah. I can really relate to that. I think, I'm really glad that I had heard a couple people say that they didn't have this like wave of, I could lift a car off you love, like crash down on them in the delivery room. Because otherwise I would have been really freaked out that I didn't feel those things. I felt like, I've never seen these babies before. Like, hello, nice to meet you. Like, I had never seen him before, and the ultrasound didn't help all that much. And I think in those early days and weeks and even months, like I was so tired
Mm.
in my bones that like I wasn't feeling anything for anybody, and I again, I'm with you that it's taken me a long time to process. And I think in some ways I still am process like what happened and how it went and what I thought it was going to be like and how it was different. And but I think the more we can say like this looks a lot of different ways based on 1,000 different things, like
Mhm.
it's better because then we don't judge ourselves for our feelings. We have kinder feelings about our feelings.
And that's where this whole idea of this good mother popped up for me. It's like, what is a good mom, right? Like just the images of what it means to be a good mom that we see on social media every day. And I just started wrestling with, if I'm not feeling attached to my son, if my body is struggling, if I'm just like, who am I and what am I doing? Like, am I doing a good job? Like, is this it sort of feeling, And it's again taken a long time. And this second pregnancy has been radically different. If that gives any new first time moms hope, I think the fears of that first time pregnancy, whether you're juggling like high risk pregnancy or not, it's just you are learning a foreign language. The whole pregnancy, everything is so heightened. You're just like on edge. At least I was about every little thing. Like I this time around, I just keep forgetting like how many weeks am I, and like like I'm just not as hyper aware of every little risk and fear. And so it's still like underlying somewhere there, but I am like, I'd say like enjoying it more, like just like a little more trusting. And you have that one under your belt and you're like, okay, I have done this before. This is going to be so hard, but I know that I can do it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Um, if you could go back and talk to yourself, at different points along the way when you found that doctor's note that like, I have told her that pregnancy might be difficult and or impossible. And you're like, absolutely not. You did not. Um, or, when you were pregnant in the midst of a high risk pregnancy, or, as you're dealing with the fact that like you're dealing with a really tough recovery after your son was born, or wondering if you're a good enough mother, like just anything, like if you could like pack your former self a sandwich and put like a sweater in there and a note, like what would you want to make sure that she knows?
Yeah, such a good question. I think I want myself, that former self, to know that you have got to advocate for yourself. And it's so huge. And I continue to learn it even now in this next pregnancy. It's like, especially in that medical community, like, the system is flawed and they like, you are not their only patient. You are not, um, always top of mind. Like, it is up to you to, that, if you see something in your records that you're unsure about, like, ask questions. I mean, I was so young and my mom was upset and advocating for me too, but like, find a new doctor, like, find someone who you're comfortable with, who can answer your questions and be very real with you. Otherwise, you're going to slip through the cracks, right? No one is going to make that next appointment for you. No one's going to find a provider who has a different approach or who wants to like look at you more holistically. And I think this whole idea of advocating for yourself just trickles over into every area of your life. Like, you have to invest in caring for yourself and learning about yourself so that you feel confident enough to keep putting yourself first. And again, that's also just not something I was hearing for a long time in the Christian world. Like, we just hear die to ourselves, and there's so much beauty in the scripture with all of that. But like, there's something lost in the art and the beauty of loving your body no matter what. And like, doing whatever it takes to advocate for yourself and your well-being.
I love that so much. I love that so much. I think that's so hard for us because we don't want to be annoying. We don't want to be a squeaky wheel. It's like all of our training is from 1,000 different sources, pushes us in the other direction of just like, thank you. Okay, you're the expert. I'm not. But like, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. We have to know what's going on, and we have to be paying attention, and we have to speak up if something is off, and we have to ask more questions and ask for a second opinion and all of it. Because otherwise, like, I mean, I guess unless you're okay if things don't go well, or like if you're okay slipping through the cracks, but I think most of us are not.
Mm-hmm. And you deserve it. Like, we each deserve it. So it's getting to a place where deep down that you deserve like the best care and treatment.
Yeah, I love that. Ashley, what does being a good enough mom look like for you right now? Like, what are a couple ways that you're defining that right now?
Yeah. So, well, life with a toddler, as you know, how old are your girls? They're 3,
Or
4. Yeah. So he'll be 3 this summer, my son. So we're in similar stages, but every day
wild.
is, yeah, they're wild. Yeah.
Yeah,
You have 2 at the same time. I'm always like, I do not know how.
barely.
So,
I
yeah.
barely. I did
Yeah.
not. I did not do it well. I did.
Yeah.
I did. We've been
Good
doing a good
enough.
enough job.
Yes. So actually, the image on my book is a goldfish, and it's very intentional. There are these little grocery lists throughout the book. And, when I made a grocery list when I was a mom, it's like full of pouches and milk and goldfish. And to me, that goldfish just stands out as like that iconic motherhood symbol. It's like it could be perceived as like this lazy mom who buys like the prepackaged snacks. And to me, it's like, yeah, my son and I last night just ate goldfish together. Like, to be good enough as a mom, it's like to surrender when you're exhausted, to lean into those conveniences, or just not overly stressed about the screen time and the snacks and the millions of things that are weighing you down. And to know that every day is different. Like, someday I might be like full of energy and have all this time to make my son like these homemade snacks and a wonderful dinner. And he might be in a great mood, and we might have this family dinner that's like magical. And you're like, oh, yes, this is the picture of perfect. And other days are just not like that. Right. And it's like, I am still a good mom. It's like going to bed at night knowing like, this is good enough. Like, it's more than good enough. Like, I'm doing a great job.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Ashley, seriously, thank you so much for being on the show. I've loved getting to talk to you. You guys will link to Ashley's new book in the show notes, so you can check it out. And yeah, thank you for coming to Girls Night.
Thank you for having me. This was really great.